Hello, Web3 TV friends. My name is Ornella Hernandez, and today I'm at the Rippleswell Conference in Dubai. Joining me here, we have Amanda from the Association for Women in Cryptocurrency. How are you?
I'm great and having a lot of fun.
Yeah. How do you like the event so far?
No, it's really good. I spend a lot of my time at events just because we coordinate with a lot of conferences. And when you see people who spend a lot of time on quality content curation and attendee curation, you can feel the difference in the quality of the conference. And they did an exceptional job with this.
All right. So I know that you were a speaker here at the Rippleswell event yesterday, day one. So if you could just give us a few bullet points of what you spoke about up on stage.
Yeah, so I had the honor of speaking with Minu Yerra, who's the head of compliance here at Ripple, and probably one of the most brilliant compliance people in the world. And André, I'm going to butcher his last name, but he's a partner at Norton Rose Fulbright. And we talked about basically like emerging issues in AML, financial crime, as it pertained to crypto and blockchain technology. And it's obviously a hot topic, and there were a lot of different areas that we covered within that. Sometimes the conversation meandered, but I think overall it was a really interesting look at kind of where issues that are happening now, especially in Dubai, and then where we think AML and crypto will be in a year.
Okay, that's a really interesting topic. So then what would you say to someone not in the space, right, who just sees all the media headlines that crypto is a scam, everyone's a fraudster, there's phishing attacks? Like, what would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I would say to them, much like a lot of the media today, and obviously you guys excluded, but in the US, we have a real problem with for-profit media, and they're all about clickbait, which means that the headlines sometimes are just blatantly false and are misrepresented, which is really tragic. But I see this all the time in crypto where you have to get to the end of the article before you find the truth. And I think that's really doing a disservice to the industry, and it's really killing us because the actual amount of financial crime in crypto, there's no evidence that it's any higher than traditional finance, right? And everybody's suddenly being concerned with scams. I was a federal prosecutor for a decade, and I'm like, where were you when scams were happening before? This sudden concern about certain types of crimes that happen in crypto were happening in traditional finance, and
Still happen, probably.
Still happening in traditional finance. Terrorist financing, that was a huge issue recently where people were making a lot of hay out of a small amount of crypto when most of terrorist financing is still coming from state-sponsored terrorism, hawalas, and other types of financing. So trying to have that objective conversation, I think part of the problem is cutting through to explain to people there are massive potentials, the potential for this in the future. Crypto, blockchain, stablecoins, these are all the future of digital finance. And the same way that you don't throw out the dollar because there's financial crime in it, you don't throw out an entire industry just because it has some bad actors. And I think that's a hard message of trying to get to people.
Right. No, that makes sense. All right. So then tell me a little bit more about the Association for Women in Cryptocurrency, what its mission is, what your vision is.
Yeah, so I started the association last year. We're 1 year in. We have over 300 members in about 18 countries. And we're trying to build a truly global network of women and supportive allies who all have an advocacy mission to improve inclusion of women in the future of digital finance. I think if you're familiar with traditional finance, most people would say they didn't do so well at that. And one of the
women in particular. Okay.
Yeah.
Why would they say that?
I don't think a lot of people would argue that traditional finance historically didn't do a great job at inclusion, whether it's women or even people of color. I think it's getting better, but the thing about crypto and blockchain that's really amazing is so many of us got into this field because I was a federal prosecutor. People come from traditional finance. They come from other companies. They see the possibility to build a better future. And so if you think that you can build better, then you want to build it better from the beginning, which would include inclusion as opposed to down the road trying to bolt on and include people who were left behind from the beginning, right? And if you're trying to build better, you should build it with a multitude of voices, not the same white males that tend to build traditional finance or build tech. And I think I really am enthused when I look at crypto blockchain conferences because I think we're seeing an increase, and I work with a lot of conference planners, and we are trying to get more intentional inclusion of women and people of color as well, so that the future of digital finance looks a lot more like everyone instead of something built for one type of person.
Build better. I like that. And so how did you even find out about blockchain technology in the first place? Was there like a moment or a memory that you can recall?
Actually, yes, a very specific moment where one of my agents came into my office when I was a prosecutor and asked me, did I know what a Bitcoin was? And I said no, but we had a very...
When was this? Do you remember the year?
This would have been about 2013, I want to say. So it was very early on. And back then there weren't training programs. There weren't a lot of us doing this. Most of us had to go to Google and YouTube University to learn what a Bitcoin was. And so back then there was a handful of us who just figured it out. And I just happened to catch it. I was a money laundering prosecutor who caught a crypto money laundering case and had to learn it. And at the beginning, it was a lot of crime because criminals tend to be early adopters of technology. But over the years, we saw, criminals stayed and more criminals came, but a lot of legitimate uses and a lot of really cool things came out of it. And I've heard this comparison and I think it's so apt, but a lot of people say it's like Napster. You're probably a little too young to remember Napster.
No, I remember Napster, the music platform, yeah.
I'm aging myself, but I was sitting in college downloading thousands of songs, knowing that this was probably illegal, that a massive copyright infringement, and just riding that wave as long as I could to get...
I used LimeWire more.
Yeah. So, but this is the thing, right? That iteration... First it was Napster, then LimeWire, then Kazaa, right? You don't get any of those things. You don't get Winamp, you don't get Apple Music, you don't get Spotify without those iterations. And so a lot of people are looking at it now and saying, well, it's like Napster, we should shut it down. You cannot shut down disruptive technology that's going to change an entire industry. And this is why banks are adopting a lot of these technologies. They're looking at what crypto and blockchain can do in cross-border payments. You're not shutting down, changing the transfer of funds internationally and globally instantly. Like, that's improvement, that's advancement. You're not going to shut that down. The question of how to regulate it and how to grow it responsibly and how to innovate responsibly, that's the conversation that I think everyone here is really excited to have. And when you have this many people in a room, and this is the incredible thing about Swell, when you have a company like Ripple that is trying to do it right, that is all about maturation, that is about what got us here won't get us there, and is bringing in the people from all around the world who want to have that conversation of, okay, how do we get from LimeWire to Apple Music? And all these people want Apple Music. We might not know what it's going to be or who's going to win, but the environment and the excitingness of being around a bunch of people who want to get it right, who want to talk about what does this technology look like? How do we reduce financial crime? But how do we foster responsible innovation without shutting it down? That's a really heady environment to be in. And I think it's why people are so excited to be here.
That's why I'm in this space too, honestly, the passion that people have for it. So I'm going to ask a more creative what if question. If you could wake up tomorrow in a fully enabled blockchain Web3 world, what do you think would be the first thing that you do in this world that is fully full of Web3 elements?
Oh, wow. That's it. That's an incredibly hard and also creative, wonderful question. I think the thing that I would do is educate. The thing that I worry about is people love the idea of crypto and blockchain and a level of financial independence that frankly we didn't have when we were completely reliant on intermediaries. But the problem is that with great power comes great responsibility. And in a lot of countries like the United States, we stopped most financial literacy programs in the 70s. So if you take a bunch of people who haven't really been learning about financial literacy and you give them massive autonomy over their finances and the ability to transfer money and invest and do all these things, they are incredibly prone to being taken advantage of. And scammers have existed for a long time, but the problem is when you let a lot of entrants in without protections, without education, then you get a lot of people who are being taken advantage of. And right now, the system technology allows so much rapidity, like it's rapid. It is, you get these texts, are you busy? Pig butchering, right? Like the scams are so creative and so fast and so global that we really need to have massive consumer education campaigns, because anybody I think would tell you that if we were to have massive global adoption tomorrow, it would be terrifying because the masses are not ready for that level of financial autonomy.
We don't know how to handle it. Okay, that's a really good point. Okay, so you would do something that would help people get there, maybe provide resources, educate. Okay. All right.
I think there's some really incredible resources. I know I met a woman here who's doing blockchain education for women. There's so many cool people in the space. I think the problem is there's so many cool people in the space, right? And trying to get projects together and say, oh, don't the 5 of you reinvent the wheel. Like, what if you sync up, we align, partner with Ripple, partner with these companies? And I think those partnerships and those collaborations are what will get us there. It's just the iterative process of figuring out, okay, what does this look like? What does it need to be? What's the LimeWire? What's the Kazaa, right? And how do we get down that road to where we need to be, which everybody knows is some form of digital finance.
Yes, and it takes time. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.